I saw this video about the Trinidad connection to a famous study of twins raised apart. And I knew that one of the brothers was raised in Trinidad and the other in Germany. But I didn't realize that the brother who was raised in Trinidad was Mr. Yuffie of Yuffie's fabric stores in Port of Spain. And this case is a dramatic example of the role of genetics over environment in determining very specific things about someone's personality. When the brothers met, they were even wearing, very similar outfits without having planned it. But what I found was interesting was that when they finally met in person, the German brother had been so indoctrinated into the Nazi ideology of his society that he hated his own identical twin brother. I thought this was a really powerful illustration of how stupid we are when we buy into indoctrination that makes us hate our own communities. Because what that means is that we hate ourselves. And people have been asking me, why? Why do people do this? I think sometimes it might be a kind of emotional survival strategy, like a way of distancing yourself from, those other kinds of people in the group that you belong to, if it is a marginalized group, and positioning yourself as one of the good ones. The thing is, the German brother, for all of his hate and participation in the system, had his fellow Nazis found out that his father was a Jewish man, he would have met the same fate as so many unfortunate others. I once met a British Indian guy who looked at me and told me that I was not really Indian because people in India are not as dark as I am. Now, I know that's bullshit because I've been to India and I've seen all of the shades of people that exist there. But more than that, and I kid you not, the brother was the same skin tone as I am, as far as I could tell. But he had positioned himself psychologically as close to the British people who are the majority in the country where he lives. And he had perhaps positioned me as close to blackness because I am the descendant of Indian indentured laborers from the Caribbean and culturally close to people of African descent. So his mind was actually overriding his eyes, and he was seeing physical differences between us that weren't really there. And I can almost guarantee that were we both in the vicinity of ICE officers right now, they would not bypass him to get to me. So when we see people supporting policies and politicians and ideas that seem to be working against their own best interests, we might be puzzled and ask ourselves, what is wrong with them? Do they not know who they are? Migrants for Trump, women for Epstein, chickens for KFC. I think one other aspect of this is that there seems to be a crisis of identity where many non-white people think of themselves as white due to identification with the dominant culture. And that doesn't only happen in white majority countries like the United States. That happens in countries like mine, Trinidad and Tobago. That happens in places where almost everyone is non-white, like East Asian countries. Out of curiosity, can you let me know if this is a thing in your country as well? If you are doing this, it might be time for some soul searching because you will never be one of them. And all you are doing is serving a system that harms others like you. And eventually, they will come for you too.